Vayehi dvar Adonai el Jonah ben Amittai lemor. And the word of God came to Jonah, son of Amittai, as follows. Kum, get up. Lech el Nineveh, ha'ir ha'gdolah. Get up and go to the city of Nineveh, the large city, ukra aleha, ki alta ra'atam lifanai, and proclaim before her, that is the city, that their evil has risen up before me. Vayakam Jonah livroach Tarshisha milifnei Adonai. But Jonah got up. Instead of going to Nineveh, he fled to Tarshish from before the sight of God. In other words, as opposed to what God had told him. Vayered Yaffo, he went down in Jaffa, he got off in Jaffa. Vayimsa Oniyah, he found a boat, Ba'a Tarshish, that was going to Tarshish. Vayitain Schara, he paid his fare. Vayered Ba, he went down into the boat. Lavo imahem Tarshisha, to go with them to Tarshish, milifnei Adonai, as opposed to what God had said. And God cast a strong wind on the sea, and the ship was in danger of breaking apart. The sailors prayed to their God and threw their cargo into the sea to lighten the load. While all this fury was going on, Jonah was in the hold of the ship and sound asleep. The ship's captain woke him up. How can you sleep? Appeal to your own God. Maybe your own God can help. Meanwhile, the sailors cast lots, hoping through the lots to find out who had brought about this disaster. And of course, the lot fell on Jonah. Who are you? From what country? Of what people? I am a Hebrew. I worship the eternal God who created both sea and land. What have you done to provoke such anger? And all the while the storm was growing more and more violent. Throw me overboard, Jonah advised. But the sailors kept trying to beat the storm. They tried to row back to shore. They couldn't. They prayed to their God. Nothing happened. Finally, exhausted and desperate, they threw Jonah overboard, and immediately the storm stopped raging. God provided a large fish to swallow Jonah whole, and Jonah spent the next 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish. Then God made the fish spit Jonah out on the dry land. God spoke to Jonah again. Go to Nineveh, God ordered. And this time Jonah obeyed. He went to Nineveh. Now Nineveh was a large city, and it still exists in Iraq with the same name. So large, it took 3 days to walk across it. After 1 day of walking, Jonah proclaimed with great certainty that in 40 days the city of Nineveh would be no more. It would be overthrown. But the people of Nineveh believed him. and they did everything they could to atone for their sins. They proclaimed fasts. They put on sackcloth and ashes. They proclaimed that both man and beast fast. They did everything they could to turn away from their evil ways, hoping that God would relent and change his mind. All of this greatly upset Jonah. He prayed to God. I knew this would happen. You're too loving and compassionate a God to carry out such a punishment. That is why I went to Tarshish when you ordered me to Nineveh. Take my life, Jonah begged God. I'd rather die than have to see this. Jonah then left Nineveh and went a little east of the city. He built a sukkah and sat in the shade beneath it. God provided Jonah with a gourd, in Hebrew a kikayon. Jonah loved it, especially the shade it provided. Next day, at dawn, God sent a worm, Tola'at, who bit the kikayon at its base, so it quickly withered. Meantime, the sun rose and beat on Jonah's head, and he became faint. Again he prayed to God to let him die. So God asked Jonah, is it because of the kikayon? And Jonah answered, yes. I grieve so deeply for that kikayon, I want to die. And God replied, you grieve for a plant you never worked on or raised. It lived and died after one night. So shouldn't I care about that great city of Nineveh? Vayomer Adonai, and God said, Ata chasta al hakikayon. You were upset about the kikayon, asher lo amalta bo, that you didn't work on, velo gidalto, and you didn't raise it. Shebin laila haya, it was one night old, uvin laila avad, and the next night it was gone. Va'ani, and I, God, lo achus al Nineveh, shouldn't feel sorry for Nineveh. Ha'ir hagdolah, that great city. Asher yesh ba, that has within it Harbe mishtei mesrei ribo Adam, that city that has within it 12 times 10,000, so that's 120,000 men. Asher lo yada, that also doesn't, that city that doesn't know, Bein Yamino Lismolo, that doesn't know its right hand from its left, and a lot of cattle, Uvahema Rabbah.
Now, looking at what I saw, I may need you to do the first part again, but not tonight.
Okay.
I have to look and see. It looked like the paper, I didn't have the camera up high enough.
Oh.
So I think the first half I got a lot of...
So why don't we do it now?
Let's try it again then, okay. Let me just...
With the reading then.